You have to create scroll stopping creatives, right? You have to have emotional messaging and get that user primed up so that is in matching that with the influencers that we're running. That's basically what drives us, but knowing, and usually it's a close relationship that we have with brands, with agencies that we're working with, and just knowing that we're going to be passing the ball and then where to look for that ultimate performance. Now, we did a DMA market test versus control market. The benefit of this is, one, the brand was server side. Secondly, we partnered and talked to their analytics team.
Listening to Affiliate Nerd Out with host Dustin House.
Hey folks, welcome to Affiliate Nerd Out webinar edition. Thanks for joining us today for Beyond the Click, measuring incremental lift with influencers and affiliates. We are live, and I'm going to be your host today, Dustin House, affiliate marketing concierge. And today we're diving into strategy that is redefining how performance marketers think about the funnel, the Constellation strategy. And in a world where influencer buzz alone isn't enough and affiliate conversions are increasingly scrutinized out there, brands need more connection, measurable action, scalable approach to growth. This session is all about aligning influencer content distribution strategies with affiliate retargeting to not only generate demand, but to close the loop with data-based performance. We're assembled a powerhouse panel to show you how to move customers down that funnel in a more predictable way, track incrementality, ROAS at that publisher level, and creatively scale your affiliate and influencer programs, especially in the early stages of growth. And this is an interactive webinar, so please add your questions to the chat and we will answer them accordingly. So without further ado, let's meet our panelists. Each brings a unique perspective to this conversation around influencer, virality, affiliate retargeting, and measurable performance. First up, Kim Murray, the founder of Virality Boost. Kim works with top brands to engineer influencer campaigns that don't just go viral. They drive real business outcomes. Her team specializes in connecting high-performing creators to product-led growth strategies. And today she's going to help us unpack how to turn top-of-funnel attention into trackable performance. Welcome, Kim.
Thanks. Hi, Dustin.
Next up, we have Anne LaRocca, a director of business development in USA Today. Annie sits in the intersection of commerce and editorial strategy at one of the most recognized media brands in the world. She brings firsthand insight into what makes a brand compelling to premium publishers and how content distribution can play a major role in both awareness and conversions. Welcome, Annie.
Thanks, Dustin. Happy to be here.
Awesome. And finally, Tom Rathbone, VP of Product over at PartnerCentric. Tom is a leader in building tech that brings clarity to performance marketing. His work helps brands measure partner-level ROAS and incrementality, so you're not just spending smarter, but growing more predictably. He is never shy about being an incrementality nerd. Welcome, Tom.
Thanks for having me, Dustin. A pleasure as always.
All right. Great to see you again, buddy. All right. Let's start with the big picture. We'll start with Kim here. This is her brainchild. What exactly is Constellation strategy, and how does it change the way brands should think about influencer and affiliate marketing?
Great question, Dustin. A constellation strategy is a way of looking at influencer and affiliate in a holistic way. It's a visual and intuitive representation of the natural purchase path from top of funnel to mid funnel to bottom funnel. And much like USA Today and a partnership that we have, we really look at, when we're running influencer, about passing the ball. So we're basically reaching 100,000 people. We have, I'm just throwing numbers out there, but 15,000 in traffic. And we're really looking to drive kind of like the overall growth for a brand. And by looking at where the affiliates sit within the purchase path. So, USA Today is going to be it can be top of funnel and mid funnel. You've got safe opt, which is like email retargeting, cart abandonment with upsell it, loyalty, it just goes on and on. But they're all sitting in this natural purchase path. And so when you have that kind of point of that pressure point in influencer, and then you're driving that purchase intent and demand, you're pushing this customer, the ball, down the funnel. And that's really the Constellation strategy, is by looking at where everybody sits within this natural purchasing path. And then you're looking for conversions in that way.
Beautifully said. Awesome. Any thoughts on that, Tom, Annie? How do you feel about this? Do you guys subscribe to this theory?
Yeah, personally, much of the work that we try and do is to try and quantify that, right? Like, we know that these influencers are providing value all over the place in different ways, in different parts of the funnel, et cetera, but are tricky to quantify. Or we can make inroads towards quantifying that to a dollar value, the more we can be smarter about how we're allocating our budget. I don't think we've ever had a hard time quantifying the cost of the channel. We've always had a hard time quantifying the value. And if we're going to do like a smart, real job of that, we've got to take something more like a Constellation strategy approach.
Beautiful. All right, let's talk about that buzzword, incrementality. Starting with you, Tom. How do you define incrementality in the context of partnerships, and why does it matter more now than ever?
That last bit, for more than ever, is a super interesting addition to that question. I'm assuming I'm not going to tell anybody watching this anything new when I say that we have a serious problem in tracking incrementality in the affiliate channel, largely because we don't control the supply. They don't have incrementality testing really as an option in a scalable, standardized way. Why does it matter more than ever now? Just to kind of skip to that end a little bit, I think what we've been seeing a lot over the past probably a couple of years, but certainly over the last 6 months, that border of affiliate and partnerships has continued to broaden and encompass more influencers, more PR, more connected TV, whatever AI is doing right now and is going to do next month. And the traditional way of measuring value, not that it was ever doing a really good job of measuring incrementality, but it has even more gaps now than it ever did, I feel. And that, even though there's original methods of measuring value, last click tracking, single touch point, it was never really doing a good job. So for me, when I look at incrementality, we're trying to answer the question of, are these partners driving growth? And if so, how much growth? Last click tracking is only going to tell you how much credit they're getting, not how much growth they're driving. Mm-hmm. So for us, it's going to be looking more at partner by partner, how many conversions are they contributing to, and how are they contributing to that? And can we quantify the value of that contribution? And almost just take the existing attribution model out of the equation and just answer that one question. And just by nature of doing that, I think we get to different conversations, different decisions, and a better picture of what is and what isn't actually an incremental partnership versus one that's just harvesting demand.
Beautiful. Any thoughts on how you guys are judging incrementality as well, or showcasing the value of your guys' publication?
I would say, it depends on the partner, really. It's gonna how we function is gonna be different for every retailer, right? It's for the smaller brands, we're gonna be more brand awareness. It takes a little bit of time for the consumer to build up that trust and loyalty to a brand enough to be able to buy from them. For the bigger brands, obviously that conversion is going to happen a little quicker, and the brand awareness, not so much about building awareness for the brand themselves, but more so, what do they have going on? Do they have a sale? Do they have a new product? Do they have a new collab? That's kind of where the awareness comes in. And so we kind of measure incrementality from that sense. It's what value are we providing? Are we in the brand awareness stage? Are we in the conversion stage? Are we somewhere in the middle? And that's just going to change dynamically as partnerships grow and with the diverse retailers that we work with.
Do you feel like you get enough data to do that effectively?
Not as effectively as we would like, honestly. Some of the networks do a pretty good job at reporting, and some, retailers have the multi-touch attribution in their affiliate program. But honestly, we're always looking for more data.
Yeah, it seems to me that there's a huge gap in a standardized way of delivering that to the publishers to just help them inform and optimize more. I'm assuming you guys are providing a lot of brand growth, a lot of brand recognition. But if you're not able to get the data down, it's harder to optimize towards that and kind of quantify that.
Yeah, one thing that a lot of retailers ask for is first-time customers. They want new customers. And that's something we can never see on our side. That we have a little anecdotal evidence just from the partners telling us, like a really hard data piece to measure for whatever reason.
Kim, you're in a lot of affiliate tracking solutions, and not all of them are built the same. Some give much more dynamic tracking and visibility to what's going on in that funnel. What do you see as one of those big gaps that most of these networks are missing?
Well, for sure, it's a network problem because, I mean, that's basically how they started, was last click, right? And even Google right now, but it's really on the onus is on the brand, not having server side tracking. At the end of the day, if you think about influencer, it's a mobile traffic, right? So 90% of that's going to be mobile, 10% is going to be desktop. Of that 90%, 50% of that's iOS. And if 50% of that's iOS, there's no tracking, right? So it comes in as direct traffic or direct sessions in G4. Then if a user, let's say the behavior of influencer is going to be one of four things. They're going to click the link, they can save it for later, they can search the brand, or they can go direct. If they search the brand, they find something they like, they come across a USA Today article, then they have Retail Me Not browser extension. They're doing this on their desktop because they're 35 and older, which a lot of people like doing desktop transactions rather than on their mobile. And then they go back to the brand and then they jump back out and then they look for a deal and then they find the deal and then what happens. So what's interesting on the G4 side of it, on the Google Analytics side of it, especially with that last click attribution, is that it'll look like you've got inflated traffic and a low conversion rate, where ultimately that one user came back 4 different times. Do you know what I mean? In 4 different ways. And then of course it is that last click distribution. I've been looking at server side tracking, and there's just been a lot of, there has to be some kind of way to marry the data in a better way, but we do have workarounds that are really effective that give us directional data. And then when we work with USA Today, Annie and I kind of compare notes, be like, hey, we had 100,000 in reach and we had this much traffic. She's like, yes, we saw traffic over on the article. And then also, okay, well, how many clicks did you get? And then I measured the amount of traffic we sent to the article, and then using the clicks, then we were measuring kind of like what the article traffic to the landing page of the brand is, and then the conversion. So her article really has an interesting effect because it siphons out a lot of maybe mid-interested people, but also her article has the same effect as influencer would, which is they would read the article and they can go search for a brand, right? Go search for a deal, maybe they convinced them, things like that. So also editorial does not show the full impact of their power that they have within the customer journey, right? So discovery down to purchase intent, she's reinforcing our purchase intent, and then where else are they going? So that's why we have to lean into a constellation strategy, because affiliates very used to this very myopic kind of like, I spend this much, I get this out in a very direct marketing way. You can't budget like that. And as things become more fragmented, meta glasses, like all these tools, we don't even know that's going to be coming out there. Where is the brand going to get that purchase intent? Where is that user going to be like, you know what? I saw that and that's cool. And I totally want that. Right. And then but we have to all lean in together. And I think that that's really important in this space. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Oh, I think so. Let's talk more about that customer journey here, and let's get the perspective of a major media publisher. Annie, how do you view the role of USA Today in the customer journey from awareness to conversion there?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit to this earlier. We kind of play a little bit of each role, and it's going to depend on the brand, on the vertical, seasonality, and their level of exposure, whether they, booked a paid package or they're kind of going the organic route. As I said, for the smaller brands, it's going to be more in that kind of like upper funnel, building the awareness. And this is where consistent and constant coverage is really important, because the reader needs to be reminded of this brand. The first time they see them, it's not going to really like dig into their brain. They'll probably forget shortly thereafter, but the more they see it, and then the more they see their influencers posting about it, like the more they really get visibility and exposure to this brand, the more they're going to remember it. Maybe they get an email reminding them about it, or see an inclusion in our newsletter, something like that. And that's when the conversion is going to come later. With the bigger brands, we don't need quite that level of exposure, just because they already have that by the nature of what their brand is. Think Amazon, Walmart, Target. Like the brand awareness that's a done deal. It's automatic for those brands. And the conversion for those types of things happens a lot more quickly than the smaller brands. It's kind of in all areas of the customer journey. And it really is just going to come down to the brand and their goals and how they want to kind of market themselves through our content.
Beautiful. Kim, and you work with USA Today on a close basis. How are you seeing that work?
I think, to Annie's point, it really depends on the brand. And from an influencer perspective, and why it's so powerful when we're working together, is because especially on newer brands or brands that are established but don't necessarily do a lot of brand awareness, or whatever the case may be, we're anchoring the credibility. So the job of the influencer campaign is to get the user emotionally charged enough to want to go and read the article and want to go and learn more, right? So I think that it's a very powerful tool in anchoring the credibility, and we see it in the click-through rate and different KPIs that we're looking at. But again, it depends on average order values. It depends on the brand type. Does the brand have kind of existing momentum or not? That type of thing. And she and I have worked on one particular brand that did 3-4 articles, and within the second, third article, they're crushing it, right? First article, little bit. Second article, pretty good. Third article, and crushed it on 2 levels. Crushed it on the influencer KPI level, and then on the conversion level through USA Today.
Beautiful. And Tom, guys, PartnerCentric has some pretty cool tools to be monitoring this kind of traction and through that funnel. What are you guys doing to provide the merchants that you're working with that kind of insight?
Yeah, we'll, for each publisher, for every one of our clients that's integrated with our Incrementality, we'll track every conversion that they take part in, each publisher, and then we'll quantify to some extent or score them even on things like where they fall in the funnel and whether that user is an existing user, like the one we've seen before, or a new one, which kind of scratches the new return customer, not perfectly, but it gets us at least directionally there. Or even do pretty interesting things. You can tease out a lot of insights if you even look at the gaps between sessions and who brought a customer back into a consideration cycle. So like as Annie was saying, if they kind of retarget someone for a brand that they knew they were there a few weeks ago, if USA Today brings them back into a conversion process after they went away for a month, that's super valuable. And we should be tracking those, because that's kind of an overlooked type of value the publishers can provide to their own internal remarketing, retargeting. We'll definitely find is when we pair that data next to affiliate network data, like last click tracking data, and by way of comparing the things, we'll tease out a lot. If you look at like a lot of session-based data and compare it to basically click-based attribution, you can really determine which publishers are getting credit because of mid-session clicks, which indicates that user was already on site, already considering that publisher came in during that session for whatever reason. So really, like, all that directional data, I think, has been really helpful for us. I think it's all marketing data. Like, we're so addicted to dollars in, dollars out in the affiliate channel that we kind of forget to look at the nuance and treat it like marketing data. Like, I buy stuff for stupid reasons all the time, and nobody's going to quantify my stupidity very well. And I think we kind of lose that. we lose the fact that they're human beings, that this is basically like economic data. Science. So for us, like, the more we can just like tease out directionally where these publishers are falling into the mix, then we can make some decisions on optimization and see, how did this change the numbers? Did they move in a direction we wanted them to or not? And that's at least a better conversation for us to have.
Yeah. And that's incredible data that you guys are collecting as well for your future clients and others and then we can cater that campaign with our new brands that we're working with what they're looking for and what part of the funnel that they're really finding value in. So incredible that you guys are gathering that. And on continuing on that topic of funnels here, like many brands view influencer marketing as that top of funnel strategy. And this question's, we'll start with you, Kim. How do you make influencer content actually convert or play a role in driving performance?
Yeah, so our intention, and we're very intentional about it, is really about focusing on reach and traffic, highly targeted traffic. And that reach is not something that's because the attribution chain breaks on mobile, especially using affiliate links, that type of thing. At the end of the day, that reach, when you reach 100,000 people, they're going out and doing something with it. They're stopping and scrolling. So in order for influencer to perform and for us to do our job to get that user interested, is you have to create scroll stopping creatives, right? You have to have emotional messaging and you have to get that user kind of like primed up, like I said before. So that is in matching that with the influencers that we're running. That's basically what drives us, but knowing, and usually it's a close relationship that we have with brands, with agents that we're working with, and just kind of knowing that we're going to be passing the ball and then where to look for that ultimate performance. Now, we did a DMA market test versus control market. The benefit of this is, one, the brand was server side. Secondly, we partnered and talked to their analytics team. We set out revenue goals as to learning what their conversion rate is, their average order value is. And then in influencer, it can be a very predictable channel based on the budget that they're spending. We know pretty much whereabouts they're going to hit in terms of like their reach and what their traffic is going to be. And so based on that, we kind of set up a revenue goal. And then after the campaign was over, we met with the analytics team and they took all their markets that were in the control versus the 4 test markets that we ran. They were already down by 8%. So we had to meet the 8% to even just be even with their control markets. And then we had an 18% lift. We were shy of our revenue goal by $3,000. So it was like, you know, our goal was like, I think 53,000. We hit like 49 or something like that. But that is a very interesting indicator because we didn't have to deal with like, you know, affiliate and conversions. They were looking at all their channels. They were looking at it holistically. And then there was no question that influencer did what influencers should be doing in a predictable way. And that's really what kind of drives the Constellation strategy. And again, future proofs it. So you can actually grow the brand and grow the program, not just that one affiliate.
Gotcha. Anything you're seeing out there that's helping you guys close on top of the funnel that's a great strategy you can suggest for brands?
There's a couple different things we're doing. Obviously, you know, with SEO getting and Google getting harder and harder, we have to be creative in the things that we're doing. So one of the ways we do that is by finding partners like Virality Boost. That's a very easy way that doesn't involve SEO at all to get more traffic to our content. And that traffic is qualified and high converting. Like Kim alluded to earlier, it kind of weeds out the people who are just going to scroll past or the people that are going to click and then immediately bounce off the page. If they stay on the page and read the article, they're a very high likely converter if they actually click through the article to the brand site. There's other things we're doing. CPC has been, this isn't really conversion focused. Obviously, it's click focused, but brands have been really into this lately because it's a guaranteed performance. Obviously, we know we can't really guarantee conversions, but we can guarantee the clicks. So that's something in addition to kind of just being creative about different content types and different partners, different tech solutions. That's another thing we've been digging into.
Right. Tom, any insight here?
Yeah, I think it, as you're kind of alluding to before, like across all of our data, we do benchmark across all the publishers and all the brands. And I think that it varies quite a bit, publisher by publisher, brand by brand. We will see some some publishers that we would consider like highly incremental for one brand, and maybe not so much doing it for the other one for whatever reason. Maybe their promotions are not scroll stopping, as Kim had said. Maybe they just don't have the brand recognition or something like that. I will say that the thing that we consistently see is that the publishers who have more of their own Constellation strategy, where they're not just looking for SEO, they're not just looking to get traffic from one form, like they're diversifying across many different forms, we'll find that they end up moving higher up in the ranks from an incrementality perspective. So a good example of that, and like let's just touch on one publisher, like a couple publishers that it can be kind of hot button topics, like those ones with toolbars. We'll find that like Capital One Shopping has a ton of value they provide through their own like remarketing, retargeting. That isn't just the toolbar. And because of that, we measure them more incremental than toolbar publishers that are just that, and they don't do anything else. They are actually able to leverage their data and their technology to bring in active sessions from other areas, and that's super valuable. It just there's a different dynamic there. So the more the publishers I think can diversify, the more likely they are to end up mid top of funnel and not just optimize towards the bottom.
And that ties into something, well, actually our sponsor of the day is Inflektion. This is a tracking solution, and affiliate marketing is evolving. That's all we're talking about today. And brands winning are just not tracking clicks, they're mastering personalization and conversion optimization. And while programs still run on clunky portals and one-size-fits-all landing pages, Inflektion is changing the game with the latest in affiliate tracking, customization, and personalized high-converting funnels. Working with brands like Ring, Backbone, PowerPlate, in less than 10 minutes, brand managers can create a fully customized landing page that can tell the influencer's story and skyrocket conversion rate. And this is what Inflektion does with every client, making affiliate and influencer programs shine with automation, personalization, and results. And if you're ready to see this in action, head on over to dustinhouse.com/INF or Inflektion. Book a demo today. That's dustinhouse.com/I. All right. Thank you to our sponsor today. And getting back into those numbers, Tom, we're coming back to you. Let's talk those numbers. What does publisher level ROAS and incrementality tracking really look like in practice? What should marketers be looking for here?
Yeah, as I said before, like we all know the denominator of the money out. That's not a hard thing for us to quantify. The money in, though, if you're just looking at like last click tracking and dividing that revenue by their cost, like it's not giving you an actual ROAS number. For us, when we try and get closer to putting a dollar amount on that, we look at all of the conversions the publishers are a part of, we score them per conversion, higher or lower as a percentage of that, and then kind of rope that into the overall revenue. The cost is still going to be the same, but that's going to give you a better perspective on which publishers are maybe driving more revenue and getting credit for less revenue. If you want a shortcut to that, because this is all, again, if you're treating this directionally and you just want to use it to make better decisions on which partners to test with more, if you want a shortcut, anybody that has GA4 and is using DDA on that, the data-driven attribution, like that inherently attributes value to every touch point. It splits every transaction across all the sessions and touch points involved. You're going to get a different dollar amount for each publisher if you're assuming you're tracking a publisher level than you would on a single touch point. If you just run that, you use that as your revenue number divided by your cost, and then compare it to a last click only, it's going to tell you a lot. It's going to tell you which publishers are getting a ton of credit on a last click basis, but aren't contributing elsewhere, and which publishers are doing the inverse. And then you've got something to make better decisions off of. But you've just got to get that revenue number from more than a single touch point basis to uncover a deeper story on what the publishers are doing for you, which partners are driving growth and which ones are just harvesting demand. So like USA Today, we want to see that just given like a content publisher, let's assume that content publishers are always more upper funnel than like a coupon site. Not always the case, but let's assume that. What we would want to see is when we look at that ROAS for a coupon site, maybe it's 6x on a basis, and a content publisher, maybe like 1x on a basis. What we'd want to see is when we take the revenue from other touch points into consideration and broader view, we'd want to see that 6 may stay the same for a coupon, but for a content publisher like USA Today, they may turn into a 10x because we're bringing more revenue into the equation. We're bringing a better story. And just by basis of comparing the two, we'll be able to say like, okay, these ones are actually undervalued. We're getting more value for each dollar spent with them. Like, let's spend more money on them. Let's try and get more of this. They're a multiplier. Like, let's grow that. We want to keep doing that. And for the one that was like what you expected on a last click basis.
Annie, does that sound good to you?
That sounds great.
All right. Where do you see most brands go wrong when they're trying to measure performance across multiple partner types? What blind spots are you commonly seeing here, Annie?
Honestly, Tom kind of hit the nail on the head here. When brands don't understand the idiosyncrasies of different publisher types and they implement the same ROI expectations on the last click for each type. Content publishers often don't yield the same ROI as loyalty or coupon when looking at that last click, but we're critical in building brand awareness, customer trust, and reaching large and very loyal audiences. In a world where all of us are constantly consuming content and looking at the younger generations, they're getting more and more of their news and education from online content. This is increasingly critical. And it's important for brands to know that more often than not, people who are consuming do not immediately convert the first time they see something. So we kind of circle back to that constant and consistent exposure that I mentioned earlier. The second mistake I see is just a lack of consistency. Content in particular can be a slow burn in the sense that it takes time for the reader to learn and become comfortable. So oftentimes people say, okay, let's test out this placement, one and done. They don't see the ROI that they want, and then they immediately strip the publisher of any value and don't partner with them again. It's a huge blind spot that I see from a lot of brands. It takes a couple months to build up. It takes more than that one placement. A one and done is not going to cut it for most brands.
Good call. Any follow-up question there? Do you guys ask for some kind of closing coupon when you create content with these brands?
Like a vanity code?
Yeah.
It's not something we require. A lot of brands offer it, and we're happy to put it in. We do find that it helps with conversion, even if it's just a vanity code in the sense that they can find an identical offer or an identical discount elsewhere on the internet. But it just kind of shows the reader that, hey, look, we have a personal relationship with this brand. They trust us enough to give us this special coupon code. The only requirement, if they are going to provide a vanity code, is that it just be evergreen so that the content will stay relevant for months to come.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kim, any thoughts on that?
Well, from the vanity code perspective, I think I've always used it as a tool to increase that click-through rate, right? And then a lot of times you get the user to the site and then they have a better offer that they're running that's going to be seasonal, or if they're a new customer, which hopefully the majority are, that they're going to get the new email sign up or new text message sign up offer. And then again, that's affiliate and influencer delivering additional value to the brand, sending 1,000 in traffic, getting email sign up, the brand sign, getting the newsletter, the user gets the discount, but you're using these different discount mechanisms to just drive further performance.
All right, Kim, can you explain the concept of retargeting in influencer and affiliate and maybe share a use case of how you've seen that be successful?
Sure. Well, retargeting in the truest sense, I think we would look at it more on a publisher level. So retargeting and assisted conversions is really kind of an interchangeable phrase. But at the end of the day, like if we're driving 15,000, 10,000 in traffic, wherever the number is to the brand, we typically see different affiliates performing. So new traffic, 10,000, you're going to see a lot of performance happening on the safe ops side, right? So email retargeting piece of it, a lot of cart abandonment. So upsell it usually performs, that type of thing. So that's what, when we talk about affiliate as retargeting, it is about leaning into that Constellation strategy and then understanding where the affiliates get their traffic and then their conversions, and then making sure that you're kind of sitting in the right place. A good example of this, and it really depends on the brand too. So I've been working with a brand who has been running influencer consistently for over a year. They have busy seasons, they have slow seasons, but at the end of the day, what we've been able to do is do this mapping of Constellation strategy. Now they have a very high average order value of over 2,500. And so, we're running influencer traffic in there, and they need loyalty, they need email retargeting, so safe stop usually, and then you see a lot of search affiliates, so Bing, Wildfire performs well, that type of thing. And so we know that we're sending 1 million people over the course of 6 months, and we have this much traffic. We set up their affiliate goal, and then we kind of watch their pacing. So using this strategy for this year to date, they're up 10% over goal. And by the 20th or the 19th, they're 57% ahead of goal before the month's over. So that is predictable. We know what we need to do. We're just consistently driving momentum, and the brand has to have new customers because it's a home furnishing company. So how many times do you buy a couch? You know what I mean? So their lifetime value doesn't really factor in from that perspective. So it's an exciting brand to work with because, we have full visibility in order to see it, and we can test different creatives, different messaging, and the momentum really shows up for that brand.
Awesome. Great example. While you were talking, we had a great question come in. I want to take the time to interact with the audience here. Mark Andres says, extending tracking beyond the standard 30-day cookie window would be highly beneficial, as it would provide brands, networks, publishers with access to data over a longer period of time. It should also help highlight publishers who are driving high quality upper funnel traffic. What are your thoughts? Anybody have thoughts on this?
Hard agree.
I second the hard agree.
The weirdest thing to me is when we all know, especially on a last click basis, that conversion is happening 14 days or less. Extending the cookie window doesn't actually cost you really anything.
Yeah.
Like, we look at our incrementality track, we go back a year. Like, we want a lot of, because people don't, especially couches, unless you're a couch collector. I'm sure there's at least one of those. Not like, it's going to take a little bit of time. You're going to do some more research. You're going to look at different influencers, especially influencers in couches. Oh my God. You're going to see a ton of that. You're going to have so many touch points before you finally commit to spending $1,000+ in some cases on a couch. So I don't see really any downside to having a longer cookie window or referral period or tracking window, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
It's really about changing that direct marketing habit, right? You want the money in, you want money out, you want it in that amount. You want to see the sales within the month that you have set aside that budget for. So it's the budget that's driving the pressure, but it's going against everything that's natural about the purchasing path. And I think that, I would agree with Tom.
Okay. Yeah, I think that the short cookie window it's limiting for a lot of brands. Like for your standard, product between $20 and $50 that you maybe need or have to buy quickly, okay, a 14-day cookie window is fine. It makes sense. But for something like, I have a partner, they're a website platform, and even a 30-day cookie window. I mean, people think about starting a business or starting a website for a really long time. It's a New Year's resolution. Maybe you're thinking about that now in August, and then in 2026, you're going to start your business and your website. So the more you think, okay, what are the different hosting options? How should I start my website? You might educate yourself, but that's going to be a very, very long purchase period.
Seen it as the longer the locking period is determined on the sales cycle, and how expensive the product is, the average order value has something to do with that. Exactly. Tom, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was just going to say, especially looking back, there's so many situations where a brand would have a very short, referral window and then complain about lower funnel operators. And it's the cognitive dissonance to that. You're building a machine to optimize towards lower funnel. If you want to optimize towards upper funnel, give them something to work with. Put the cookie window out. As Mike Owen said in the comments here, it costs very little extra to do that.
I think it also depends on the brand type. So back to the couch example, right? If we're dealing with major retailers in clothing that are really focused on moving that inventory, and they have a very specific cycle, regular price, sale price, clearance price, and they're just moving inventory, then the short cookie window makes perfect sense. But for the other brands, it doesn't. So it really needs to be advised correctly.
On the other's perspective, from the brand side of things, like a longer cookie duration means they're going to have to pay partners more, and their email campaigns and their retargeting campaigns internally are still going to have to pay out that affiliate partner. But Annie, this question is for you. Like, if you see a 10-day cookie window, are you going to avoid that brand compared to the one that you see a 90-day cookie window for?
I would say we do look at conversion rate and commission rate more than cookie window. If I'm being honest, I haven't. If it's something like one day, I'll reach out and please ask them to extend that. But as long as something is like, I would say at least 10 or 14 days or more, it's not like a super limiting factor. If it's a 90-day cookie window and a very high commission rate and a high conversion rate, I mean, that's the trifecta you have there. But honestly, a cookie window hasn't been, at least coming from editorial, the feedback I've gotten from them, it hasn't been like too much of a concern, because as far as I know, the cookie windows have been pretty generous as of late. So
awesome. All right, getting back on track here. Thank you for the question, Mark, and appreciate the comments here, Mike. Thanks for jumping in. Tom, how can brands more predictably guide consumers down the funnel using influencers and affiliates in tandem?
Yeah, in tandem is super interesting. I'd say that if you're going to be using those influencers to presumably drive traffic on these social networks, and you're also going to have Facebook campaign in the mix as well, I think what people are also looking for, because I think there's some inherent distrust for marketing advertising that's out there, because we've all been bit by the brands that advertise and their stuff isn't as good as it looks like. It looks really good, it's not that good, and we all know what that looks like, and the market kind of gets flooded with those things. So I think in those scenarios, if you're going to use them in tandem, you want to use influencers to influence, but then also to validate, and affiliates to validate. So you're looking for influencers that people trust, that they look to for validation or for more information, to say, like, okay, help them determine if this is a real thing. And similarly, as you kind of go down that funnel, you may then start searching for reviews, and that's where affiliates can come in. Or maybe as you move down there, you're looking for, like, okay, well, I'm just going to wait for this thing to go on sale because it's a little too pricey for me. I think it's like understanding that your distribution is going to have different phases, and you want to be able to make sure you're there to support those different phases and use affiliates for that. And then track their contribution throughout those phases. And that's like the brands that I've seen do that best are the ones that are doing that. They have a lot of influencers out there that have their own social campaigns. They'll boost influencer posts themselves, which is always really interesting. And then just kind of get people into, like, all right, let me take action. I'm going to start looking some stuff up, to go from being a receiver of that information to a seeker of more information. And at that point, you have a more engaged.
Yeah. Kim, do you see good value in boosting campaigns from influencers that make great content?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we control the messaging and the creative. It allows us to launch quicker, test quicker, kind of siphon out what's not working, make the changes, add new influencers, test different audiences. So we have done limited UGC. It's kind of like herding cats. It can be difficult to control that and then also get the messaging, and meta is so nuanced. So we're 100% on boosting, but I'm really focused on that predictable outcome. How much reach and traffic does that brand need in order for us to hit their revenue goal? And then using that kind of predictable numbers that's unique to that brand, then where is it showing up in performance of the affiliate program? At the end of the day, you can't run an effective, you're doing the brand a disservice if you're not boosting, because the reach is as important as the traffic is. Because somebody stops, they look at it, they click more, they read the message, and then they do something with it. They say, oh, that's nice. But if they stopped and they looked at it, the reach, not the impression, not the view, but the actual reach, then they did something. They might have liked it, shared it, saved it, searched it, went direct, whatever the case may be. And then it's about building that constant momentum.
Okay, gotcha. Annie, back to you. Earlier, we were talking about CPC, and CPC is super hot in the space right now, and people are finding a lot of value. There are more and more affiliates out there going with this model. And I'm wondering, like, how are premium editorial placements out there evolving in response to brands wanting more measurable ROI and ROAS and incrementality?
Great question. Yeah, return on investment has been a very hot topic. Obviously, always has been in affiliate marketing, but it seems like the past couple years, brands are becoming more and more concerned with that. So the CPC piece is a very easy example of that. It's an easy way to guarantee the clicks. If you don't hit the clicks, then you don't get paid. That's very easy to think about. So that's one thing. We work through Levanta, and we've also done direct CPC deals just through the networks where we zero out the commission, count the clicks, and then once the click cap is reached, we turn the commission back on. And then Linkbee is another one we work with. They're great to work with. Another thing we do is we're able to kind of get more strategic with our content. So you have to move past, here's an article, it's going to be written and then thrown out into the ether, right? We have to look at what is working with this article versus this one. We have hundreds of local sites, and we have our sports media group all under the USA Today network. Would this merchant work better on one of the SMG sites? We have 10 Best, our travel site. Perhaps a retailer might work best on them and not necessarily on the USA Today shopping national site. We work with different CTAs, different images. We're constantly testing and learning through our content. And as a result, we're able to optimize the experience both for the reader and really provide a positive ROI for the merchant.
Great. Well said. And great shout outs. Linkbee, Beehive, Go Loot. These are all super hot right now in that space. But, moving into that next thing, for brands that are under 8 figures, what are some of those low lift, high impact tactics that they can use to scale their affiliate and influencer programs right now? That one's for you, Kim.
Yeah, so you want to start out by understanding what your overall revenue goal is, right? And so you're going to map out your affiliates by understanding where they get their traffic. And by understanding where they get the traffic, you're going to know where they sit in the funnel. Then you're going to identify what that gap is. Say you have a $20,000 gap, then you're going to calculate how much traffic you need in order to fill that gap. And once you do that, then you're going to run and test an influencer campaign at scale, and then test it out. Test out the creatives, test out the messaging, and then you're going to do this on a momentum basis, meaning that in August for the end of Q3, going into Q4, there should be momentum built behind the brand. So basically, how much traffic do you need in order to close that gap in terms of the hitting your revenue goal or exceeding it? Some brands can't exceed the revenue goal because their budget's their budget. So you can't have a runaway train on the commission side of it. So you have to really budget it properly. But that's basically what the tactics are for building out Constellation strategy, for looking at the entire chessboard, budgeting it correctly, testing, measuring, did we hit our revenue goal, and using tools like Tom's on incrementality and that type of thing. Yeah. But that grows a brand hands down.
You bring out like budgets capping out. Tom, I'm sure you're familiar with this. Like some campaigns are too successful. Brands say like, we're paying too much for affiliate, but it's on performance. That seems like ludicrous talk to me. How do you approach it when brands come to you and say they need to stop these campaigns?
I mean, yeah, it seems ludicrous, but like in their defense, it depends on how they're tracking that revenue. Like if they are truly on a pure last click only, not taking other channels in consideration, and that's how they're measuring that revenue, like there's a chance that a lot of those conversions are ones they would have gotten anyways. It kind of depends on the mix they have in play. If they're very content heavy and they're very top of the funnel heavy, and then they're saying that, then I'd be like, that's ludicrous. Don't say those things. But if they're like very, very low funnel oriented, then they might have a point that a lot of this is existing demand that's just getting harvested elsewhere, and they need to put some controls in it. But the control isn't stop in the affiliate channel. It's work differently with those low funnel ones, or maybe push more towards the upper funnel with your partners, I think.
I think it depends also on the size of the brands. Enterprise brands typically don't like to be outside budget. So their finance team, but that's why you have tools like budget pacing tools, where you know in that second week, if you're for the brand size that we're 50% ahead, it's like it's a win, right? And by the 20th, we know we're gonna break budget, but everybody's on the same page, so everybody knows it. But if you don't have budget pacing and you run a momentum campaign like the Constellation strategy, you have to have budget pacing in place. But you also have like a representation of budgeting as a percentage of revenue. So if we make, the program has $1 million, let's say, and then we say, okay, 10% is allocated, or the affiliate manager says 10% is allocated to a budget for the affiliate channel, and our cap on commission is going to be 4%. You have 6% to work with, and then you budget out, but you're capping. So you can't do a deal but beyond that 4% with anybody. So you have to bring all the lower funnel down to 2, and whatever the split is. But that's the strategic part of the Constellation strategy. It has the budgeting piece of it, it's influencer, it's affiliate, and then it's communicating clearly with the brand and saying, hey, we're in our third week, we're like low, we're not hitting our revenue target. And then you can bring in momentum towards the end of the month, or brand has a lot of momentum behind it, affiliates crushing it. So the brand is going to take budget out of social or out of paid, wherever it's underperforming, because the ROAS, the ROAS is going to be higher. So it's really fun if you can get behind the Constellation strategy.
Awesome. Great. Well said. All right. As we wind down here in this last few minutes, I have one last question for all of you to answer. Whoever wants to jump in first, go for it. If someone's running an affiliate or an influencer program and they're separating the two, what's the first thing you'd recommend they do tomorrow to unify this total approach?
So the question is, how would they be? So influencer and affiliate is separated from they're working with the influencer one-to-one in more of an organic sense. If they're boosting and they're working one-to-one, the influencer is boosting, right? Typically. And so they're running the traffic under the influencer, and then the attribution chain is breaking, right? So we're talking specifically about Meta, but I doubt that the brand is putting too much scale, or the influencer is putting too much boost behind scale. I've had them boost and it doesn't work well at all for me. I mean, I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there's different definitions of boosting. A lot of times, influencers, they don't have, especially on an organic level, control over their performance. So they don't know the levers to pull, or, different things to try. And in a very controlled kind of way, like testing the messaging, testing creative, testing the color, testing the call to action. There's like 9 or 10 different points of testing that you have to do. So I would say you want to run, you like kind of pull in 5, right? Or 3 or 10, 15 is a good number, depending on what the brand has. And you want to create a controlled area in terms of testing. And then you want to look at, who your top affiliates are, and then start looking at, but you want reach and traffic. Those are the 2 things that you want to do in order to see what the impact is.
To piggyback off that as well, I think there's so much overlap now between affiliate and influencer, like those walls are breaking down. So I think to separate them is a bit of an antiquated approach. And I mean, I can only speak from the point of view of a content publisher, but a content publisher is, for all intents and purposes, an influencer of sorts. It's not a specific individual promoting themselves and what they like, but it's a publication promoting certain, whether it be news or household or fashion or beauty or what have you. So they're influencing the reader in that way. And you can kind of look at, if you're looking at influencers, the people that are influencers, what kind of influencers are you working with? What are their lifestyles? What kind of audience gravitates towards them? And you can use that to find what content publishers might work well for you too, and vice versa. So that would maybe be the first piece of advice I would say to start to unify the 2, is look at what the audience looks like on either front, and then use that to find new influencers or new content publishers.
Yeah, and the definition of separation too, right? So is it a psychological separation, just the way that they're looking at overall performance? This influencer did this, or this network did this. You know what I mean? because at the end of the day, if they're still running traffic into the brand, the brand needs to be pulling their overall e-commerce numbers, their overall, like affiliate numbers, like looking at it holistically. So that would be a psychological separation. That didn't perform, that did. And to Tom's point, it's showing lower funnel perform, but where was the purchase intent kickoff point is kind of the question.
Yeah, I would say, just to give my own last little opinion on that one, if you're going to start doing that, start running correlation studies on the reach and impact on influencers and direct traffic. Is it influencing people to show up, and can you correlate that and get something directionally to help you determine if it's doing that?
Fantastic. All right. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate you guys giving this insight. With this last minute here, let's talk about how we can get a hold of you. Kim?
You can contact me. You can go to the site, but just email me if you guys have any questions. You're looking at Q4. Annie and I work really closely together. We've got whole process and strategy down, which we're super excited to work on. So definitely reach out. Fantastic.
Annie?
I can be reached either at LaRocca at usatoday.com or bizdev, BIZDEV at usatoday.com. That goes to my whole team. Feel free to reach out via email. We are full speed ahead planning for Q4. I'm also typically at conferences. I'm going to be going to CJU in a couple of weeks, so feel free to link up with me there if you'll be in attendance.
Cool. Tom?
The most reliable way for the near future would just to be hit me up on LinkedIn, look up my name. I have a picture. It's AI driven, AI made, but it kind of looks like me. So I think it's pretty good.
Love it. Awesome. All right, folks. Thank you for joining us. Appreciate the comments and the interaction from those folks, and keep on recruiting, and we'll see you out there. Take care.
Thanks, Dustin.
Thanks, Dustin.
Listening to Affiliate Nerd Out with host Dustin House.